Now today, I want to go over the difference between a talented learner and a genius. Later on in this PhD match, we finally decided to see the difference between a talented learner and a genius. And this was mainly from Isagi and Ego explaining the vast differences between both of them. This was due to Isagi figuring out that he's not the level of geniuses that he thought he was. So geniuses like Noel Noa, Loki, and Rin, Isagi is not part of that caliber. Instead, he's part of something else, a talented learner. From this, we have to go ahead and go over both of them and decide and see what the main difference is and which one you think could be better depending on the person and their personality. We first need to start with the formula of evolution that was explained by Ego. He basically explains that as a general rule, all organisms are born after receiving half of their mother and father's genes. However, there tends to be a little bit of errors, and there's a child that's born with a trait that neither of his parents possesses. In most cases, that child ends up being singled out for being different and cannot compete with others, and he's called out without passing on their genes. However, in rare instances, this case has to be a huge advantage for someone in that environment. And then eventually that new trait was once a mutation becomes a new standard for the species, and these genetic cycles repeat over and over, until the original species has become a totally different creature. So humans born with traits that others lack have a hard time being understood and live difficult lives. But that might be a gene that will cause humanity to evolve. Those areas of differentiation produce unique expressions of body and mind, and there are some people who can cast those expressions out into the world. And amidst them, there are some revolutionary expressions which are suitable for the era and circumstances. Because of this, these can change the world standards. The ones with those seeds are what Ego calls a genius. But to present society, that innovation is never something that the genius can achieve on their own. So someone needs to be able to discover that seed of a genius and comprehend its worth and be able to communicate it to the world. By boosting its feasibility and reproducibility, they turn it into a new world standard. The ones who do that are called talented learners. Henri says that she sees the talent mutations that geniuses have eventually become common. That's the same as the genetic evolution you explained earlier. Ego says right. I think that's how human culture has continued to evolve. And the same is true for soccer. You see, the mutant geniuses with abnormal physical abilities and incredible plays become singularity points. And by analyzing the geniuses and forming new tactics or using data to counter them, the talented learners develop plays using a new kind of logic. And that's how soccer has evolved. So with that being said, this is the formula for evolution. Ego says the world doesn't just revolve around geniuses. Geniuses and talented learners share the stage. And he tells Isagi to open his eyes. And talented learners like Isagi have their own path to become the world's best. From this, we learn that Isagi is not a genius and he is a talented learner. You see, Isagi learns that there's no way he can defeat a genius by trying to be a genius. The absurd plays that the geniuses make are impossible for him to try to pull off. He can't even imagine doing it. He starts to realize that he's always fought as a talented learner. All the weapons that he's had before, he would analyze somebody's talent, copy it, and make his own arrangements based on predictions. He's stolen from everyone else and still barely scraped by. He doesn't have enough originality to create something from zero. He's a genuine second-rate talented learner. From this, he also learns that Kaiser ends up being another talented learner. Just like Isagi, Kaiser also grasps the field through his senses. All of his words and actions, even though those things seem so incomprehensible, there are reasons and logic behind all of it. Even his Kaiser impact, a strike using the world's fastest kick, is a weapon that he had to think of. It's not like Loki or Rin's abnormal intuitive strength. He's the type who makes plans around what the world regards as the ultimate. Then we start to learn more of the styles that comes with being a talented learner or genius. You have the world style and the self style. The world style ego finds it easy to perform in relation to the world's values and meaning, and a talented learner faces their opponents with logic. That would mean that geniuses have self style egos and talented learners have world style egos. So Isagi starts to think this through. Pursuing value and meaning in relation to oneself is what produces a genius inspiration and unthinkable inventions. And geniuses are able to be discovered because there are talented learners, and as they admire each other and compete with each other, their egos are honed in on the fight. And that's how Blue Light has evolved. Geniuses and talented learners aren't in a hierarchical relationship. They spur each other on in a relative relationship. See, Isagi was trying to use the same insane methods as geniuses, but he's just not one of them. Geniuses and talented learners, self-style and world-style types have different ways of using their abilities. Isagi starts to think of how Kaiser was able to be effective in this match. He did it once he was able to drop his fixation on Isagi and the options he'd been using and started applying himself logically. That was the moment when things changed. Isagi also needs to drop his fixations, then he also can do what he wants to do. He had to drop his rivalry that he feels towards Rin, he had to drop his malice towards Kaiser, and he had to drop his admiration for Noah. He needed to let go of all those things and go back to what he really wanted to do, and that was to win. From this, he was able to then get a chemical reaction with Kaiser with a talented learner, ex-talented learner. He says if Ren's going to be a genius monster, then he needs to be a talented learner monster. From this, Isagi gets his new purpose, and that's to sell his soul to achieve victory. He's found a new way to fight. He was able to prove that a talented learner can defeat a genius, and he's never felt such egotistic pleasure before. From this, he decides to then team up with Kaiser. having two talented learners on the same side. This is a huge deal because both of them can use their logic and style of winning that they didn't have before. We see Rin and Shido try to pair up to go up against Isagi and Kaiser, however it doesn't work. Isagi says, "Keep playing crazy soccer, you damn geniuses, you'll never outsmart us." This is due to Shido and Rin being geniuses and they're not able to use the logic that talented learners can use to be able to defeat them. Isagi saying this because he knows that Rin and Shido can only win by using their instincts, not by thinking by logic to try to win. That's just not who they are. That's something that only talented learners can do, is use their logic. Whereas geniuses have abilities that no one else can fathom, and because of that they can use that to win, instead of being a talented learner and using logic. You see, geniuses aren't logical. They fascinate people by living however they want, and naturally become the center of the soccer world. Those are the sort of people it refers to. Because of this, Isagi and Kaiser aren't a genius. Talented learners like Isagi and Kaiser are able to think about things through logic. They're able to put together the right rational plan of action, and that's really what the philosophy of Moonchen's team is. But talented learners also need geniuses to be able to adapt to, and the NEL is a perfect example of this, as we see players be able to adapt to each other. Rin was able to become the great genius he is because he adapted to Isagi, and Isagi was able to become the great talented learner from adapting to geniuses like Rin and Noel Noa and Loki. We also see some other good talented learners like Karsu and Charles also evolve their game due to the geniuses around them. Geniuses have physical abilities beyond anything anyone could imagine, and because of this they have those incomprehensible impulses to score goals, and they have unhuman philosophies. Those guys are amazing, and they have those things naturally. Now for this, it's time to spot the biggest difference between geniuses and talented learners. For geniuses, we have players like Loki, Rin, Shido, and Noel Noa. Now some people could argue about Noel Noa being a genius or a talented learner, as he also can use logic to win. However, I would put him as a genius because he does have physical abilities beyond anything that anyone else could imagine, and he has incomprehensible impulses to score goals, and he basically has unlimited scoring options to score. Because of this, I put him at the genius range, but let me know what you guys think. You also have other geniuses, of course, like Nagi, who's easily a genius, and I would put Batra up there as well. Now for talented learners, you have some people like Kunigami, Isagi, Kaiser, Karsu, Charles. From this, the talented learners all have geniuses who they've been able to spark with and get better at, and it's vice versa. Because of this also, we see the difference in contrast. All the geniuses that have scored a goal in Blue Lock so far are ones that have super goals like unlike anything we've ever seen before. They all have abilities and gifts that no one else can do in Blue Lock or in the world, and the way they do things with their abnormal physical abilities and incredible plays is the way they're able to do stuff. The biggest argument you could have for being a genius is Kaiser. Now honestly, I thought Kaiser would have been a genius, however it was explained correctly of how he's not a genius. Now the biggest thing that could have people arguing is about his Kaiser impact. In my opinion, Kaiser impact is an inhumane physical ability that no one else should be able to do. But Isagi says here that Kaiser was able to think of that through logic. Now the way he explained it does make sense, and I do understand that, and Kaiser is a talented learner. However, when it comes to Kaiser impact, I don't know. I feel a little bit twitchy when it comes to that. So let me know what you guys think about the difference between Kaiser being a genius as well. Because him being a genius and talented learner, there was good visions and explanations of why he is a talented learner, but I'm still a little bit off on that. The point is that talented learners need geniuses, and geniuses need talented learners. From this, everyone's been able to evolve their game and get everyone to the next level. Talented learners are everything that you need with logic, and geniuses are those abnormal beings who can do whatever they want on the field. Both of them are needed, and both of them are together. You could be the greatest talented learner in the world, and you could be the greatest genius in the world, but one needs the other. And because of that, the best in the world, someone like Noel Noa, we see him over and over again have these talented learners around him, but also face off against geniuses. I would say Noel Noa is probably the only anomaly who's in his own right, because he's the best striker in the world right now, and for good reason. It's fun seeing now these all different types of egos that we have and seen so far in Blue Lock, and it just keeps getting better and better. Let me know what you guys think about the geniuses and talented learners, and who would you pick and decide who you thought was better. Well, I thank you guys for watching the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back in the next one. Peace.